Hey, how do you feel about some high rarity cards, or maybe some foreign ones, or maybe be ahead of the game with others by preparing for future set releases with very quick shipping? Check out EJ Gaming and use code British5 on checkout for 5% off on all your orders. Link in the description.
Greetings tourists and welcome to another video. So Age of Overlord is now legal. That means that we can play on competitive rated as well as play at original Konami sanctioned events, like for example the YCS happening this weekend, as well as our locals, etc, etc, under the new debut of Age of Overlord. And I kind of wanted to show you like one of the first duels that I've had post Age of Overlord, because I think this is going to be very interesting. We're going to see a lot more new tricks. We're going to see a lot of stuff that probably we've already seen in the past. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So I win the dice roll. I'm playing against SPV. He is on Tearlaments. I am on the P.U.N.K Tistina deck. So basically, I've been given the red light to just do my full combo. I go Fenrir to summon Zeamin. I don't know if he has Droll, so I tried to look for it. So I added the Foxy Tune, because that way if he had Droll, I still had a play. But he checked. I was checked for an old Droll and no Ash, which meant I could use the Fenrir as Yamin. And if you've seen this deck already in my channel, you already know this is like a +6. Like, this is an incredibly stupid combo. So yeah, I do Spider. I add with the Tistina spell, and this will summon me the Sentinel. There's a lot of avenues you can go with this. But yeah, let's keep going. We add the Crystal God. The reason we add Crystal God is because we already have Demigod in hand, meaning that all we need to do is just special the Demigod since we control a Tistina card, and that will fetch us the play of the Tistina, and that's part of the end board. So now I summon the Tracker. I go into the XYZ armor combo. I go into that. I go into the Sentinel. Sentinel grabs us the play of the Tistina, and we set 3 and pass. So if you look, let's look at our interruptions on the board. We have the Shirakusai, which can turn us into the Amazing Dragon. We have the Bear on the Floor, which is pretty much a negate. We have the Demigod, which is interruption with play of the Tistina. We have the Full Armor XYZ, which, depending on what our opponent goes for, we can rank up the Full Armor Dark Lancer, or we can use it for Demigod and Crystal God, and to make the Tistina XYZ. So let's go here. So my opponent sets 1, and then he goes immediately into polymerization. At this point, I still didn't know what deck he was playing. However, this is a really common play you see amongst Tearlaments players. And I make the really big foolish misplay of not negating the polymerization with Bear on the Floor. You can make the argument that maybe not negating was the right play, because if he had something like Talents or Thrust, it would be a little bit harder to play around those cards, because he is forcing an interruption on me. However, I kind of didn't catch this like on the spot. I let this polymerization go through. So if you're watching this replay, take what I say and not what I did. Negating this would have 100% be the correct play, because number 1, he already set a monster. He already committed a monster into the board. And 2, if he ever tries to do other plays, like let's say worst case scenario, he talents and he takes like the Baron. We still have like 3 to 4 more interruptions. So I foolishly did not negate the polymerization, and now I'm going to get punished for it, because he he fused away Kelbek and Kashtira, and he's summoning the Guardian Chimera. I cannot target the Guardian Chimera because the polymerization is engraved, and I can Baron to negate one of his millers. However, like, as you will see right now, I choose not to Baron because choosing not to Baron will force him to pop the Baron with the Chimera. If I negate one of the millers with the Baron, that's not really good value because all I'm negating is the potential of 2 mills. And I'm trading one of my other cards that is not the Baron for that. Also, he hasn't used talents yet because I haven't committed to anything yet. That being said, he pops the Baron, and not only that, he mills Agido, and that's pretty unfortunate because now he gets his engine rolling. He milled pretty much all his not all his tournament names, but at least the more important ones. Also, the 3 King of the Swamps are in his graveyard, meaning that he can potentially go into Grafa or Rokalos. That being said, we're going to proceed. I chain Play of the Tistina. The reason I chain in Play of the Tistina here is because since he's activating Sharon, one of his potential summons could be Rokalos. And I feel like despite me having the dangerous Gabu for the Rokalos, I rather just summon the Crystal God like immediately and just try to like force out the plays he has on the board. So he goes Rhino Heart and he fuses 3 away and he goes into Kaleido Heart. So now he's going to do chaining 1, 2, and 3. I chain the Gabu because he's trying to hit the full armored XYZ. There was, in hindsight, I could have full armored XYZ in chain, and then in chain activated the Crystal God. However, I want to preserve the Crystal God and the full armor because he still is dumping with the Rhino Heart, which means that is another fusion summon. That being said, he's doing Halfness. I chained the Chirakusai. So the reason I'm chaining Chirakusai here is because either Rokalos or Grafa is going to hit the board, meaning that I probably won't have another really good moment to be using this Chirakusai. So he goes Halfness and Swamp, he goes into Grafa. So I go Chainlink 1, Amazing Dragon, Chainlink 2, Jam Session because I did pay 600 for the Chirakusai. I'm mainly doing this play in this exact sequence, that way he cannot use the Grafa effect because Grafa has to respond to a normal spell or trap or a monster effect. He cannot use the Grafa to respond to Jam Session. And if he decides to like chain anything here to like any potential play that I have the Jam Dragon Drive that can bring itself back from the graveyard because he will be responding to a P.U.N.K effect. That being said, he lets me draw, he lets me grab 3. So this is another misplay that I did. He goes into battle phase, and I immediately chain the full armor XYZ to like put the Tistina on board. I completely forgot about Crystal God. Like, if you're playing this deck, remember you do have Crystal God's effect, so I could have just easily just used Crystal God, set the Guardian Chimera, and that would have forced him out of the battle phase, meaning I still had 2 more interruptions after the battle phase. That being said, I used the Armor XYZ, I used the Torpedo to target the Tistina, and the full armor will trigger, meaning I can take the Guardian Chimera despite it being untargetable. He goes into the Genesi. I have no other plays. He does the Strudel. He draws. He drew into the Sharon. Take note, Sharon was already being used as a material this turn. He goes into the Strudel. He goes into Baron. He's trying to use Baron on the Tistina. I told him that you cannot target the Tistina because of the Armor Torpedo. So he switches the target for the Lancer. And I draw into Breath of the Tistina, and this is the best draw I could have had. Well, actually, I already had the Breath of the Tistina on board, but I'll explain in a second why this is relevant. He immediately he immediately Soliax. I tried to use Ghost Ogre, but he claims that he's using it immediately when it's flipped. This is an important ruling. You cannot Ghost Ogre something that is flipping face up to activate its effect, even if it's a continuous power trap. So he's using that. He's negating the P.U.N.K because he cannot target the Tistina. And he just summons Kaleido Heart and uses the Kaleido Heart to just bounce back the P.U.N.K monster. It's important for him to do that because the P.U.N.K, the amazing P.U.N.K Dragon can just bring back the Dragon Drive or any other P.U.N.K, and I'm just going to start snowballing advantage because of a jam session. So now I declare Breath of the Tistina. Since I control a light Tistina monster, I can target one of my opponent's monsters and just set it on the board. He already used Kaleido Heart and Zodiac, so I just immediately go into Baron. And yeah, this is pretty much checkmate because if he changed the Baron to negate the Breath, that's going to trigger Falling of the Tistina, which means I'm just going to be able to summon another Tistina monster. Also, let's not forget, I also have the Sentinels effect that can bring itself back from the graveyard if I control a light Tistina monster. So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of that game. Now we're going to game 2. So game 2, he opens Proto Rhino, Swamp, Kelbek, Kashtira, and Mudora. I open Play, Teleport, Fenrir, Sentinel, and Domain. He grabs the Rhino Heart. He activates Swamp. Swamp grabs the Poly. He summons the Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart summons that. He's probably going to Rule Kalos. He went to do Grafa. So now he's starting to mill. And I want you to look at this duel specifically. I want you to look at this Kelbek right here. What if I told you he's going to activate that Kelbek more than 2 times this duel? So I go Fenrir, I go Teleport into Xiamen, Xiamen into Foxy-Tune. I go immediately into Baron because I kind of want to force one of his plays. One of my win conditions is the Divine Domain. Dweller was a very, very big heads up from his end. The Dweller makes it so I cannot use the Tistina effects in the graveyard. It means that if he destroys the domain, I don't get the floating effect. It means if I summon the Crystal God, I cannot use the Crystal God's effect either. So he's basically covering all his bases. That being said, I try to use the Baron. So I put him on the spot that he kind of has to negate this. If he gets rid of the Baron, that means I can just summon the Fenrir again. And the Baron's just going to apply a little bit of pressure. So I activate the Baron. He tries to chain Grafa. I chain the Baron to negate the Grafa. And then he changed the crime. So my Baron target was the Proto Rhino. Basically, if I get rid of Proto Rhino, that means he has no other disruptions on my turn outside of just Rule Kalos. I told him that he has to send for Grafa because the Grafa is resolving. So he sends the Poly. And look at that tier cash mill. So the tier cash was sent out of crime, meaning that it's going to mill 2. He mills the Sharon and the Halfness. Out of 26 cards. You're going to be seeing a lot of this format. Like, the odds of the plays that my opponent are going to have are not highly likely, but it's more probable more than not. So I do Foxy-Tune. He negates it with the Rule Kalos. I have a normal summon, so I'm going to normal the Sentinel. He lets the Sentinel go through, which means I can grab Breath of the Tistina. This was a misplay. And this misplay is going to cost me the game. Instead of Breath of the Tistina, I should have added to my hand the Demigod. The reason for that is I already have the Divine Domain in my hand, meaning that if I activate the Divine Domain and then I summon the Demigod, I have a light Tistina monster, meaning that I can set any other monster with the Breath of the Tistina. Granted, he did activate Mud Dragon, so I cannot target the Dragostapelia, which is his only interruption already left. However, it's still important to just take note of that play because I pretty much would have had the game, like if I'd done that. That being said, I activate the Divine Domain. Divine Domain dumps the Fallen of the Tistina to then summon Crystal God. I activate Breath of the Tistina. I use the Breath effect, set the Rule Kalos, and then add the Demigod. This is basically the same sequence that I was doing, but backwards. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to summon the Demigod. The Demigod is going to grab the Discordance. So I still need to do something about this Dragostapelia. If I resolve Crystal God's effect, I'm pretty much secured. However, there is no real way for me to activate the Crystal God without running into the Dragostapelia. So he does Mudora. The reason he's doing that is because of Pearl Rhino. He wants to use Pearl Rhino as his interruption. So now I still have to worry about the Dragostapelia. I wasn't worried about the Pearl Rhino because I had play of the Tistina. This is just going to bring back the Crystal God. So I have no other plays left. I'm forced to summon the Star Crisis. So here I have two options. Either bounce the Rule Kalos or bounce the Dragostapelia. If I don't bounce the Rule Kalos, it means that he can use the Rule Kalos to negate play of the Tistina for next turn. If I bounce the Dragostapelia, if I don't bounce the Dragostapelia, that means he can use the Dragostapelia to negate like my Demigod or the Crystal God on my turn. That being said, I'm going to bounce the Rule Kalos. And something to note, I am controlling the Star Crisis, meaning he cannot activate neither Dragostapelia nor Rule Kalos. So in hindsight, the right play should have been bouncing the Mud Dragon. You'll see later. But yeah, I ended up bouncing that. I said 2 and pass. He goes into battle phase. I activate play of the Tistina. He tries to do Mud Dragon. I do Demigod effect. Demigod doesn't target, so I just send 2 to the graveyard, and I send the Primeval Planet because of the Demigod's part of the effect. He top decks a second Pillar Rhino, and you're going to see very soon this Pillar Rhino is going to play a very, very important role. So I thought he was going to grab Rhino Heart because he never saw the Discordance of the Tistina. At least I don't remember if he did. So like he's basically taking the riskier approach, seeing out of his 30 cards if he can mill something with the Tier Kashtira. So that being said, he summons it, he mills 3, and he milks Kelbek again. This is the second Kelbek being activated. So he goes and then he mills, and he mills Agido. I think this is the first Agido being milled in this game. In this particular game. So now we mill 10 more. And he mills the Sharon. I immediately chain the Discordance. Discordance banishes a card face down if I control a Tistina monster, and it does not target. So he pretty much is forced to kill though before I banish with the Discordance. So he puts back Sharon, Rhinoheart, and Kelbek. I banish the Destrudo. He draws the Pearl Rhino. Pearl Rhino destroys the Star Crisis. He now can Dragostapelia, and this is what I meant by the misplay. Like in hindsight, I could have just gotten rid of Dragostapelia and just forgot about Rook and just let Rukalus go. That probably would have been a lot better because the Rukalos would have done a lot less than the Dragostapelia would after the Star Crisis just left the board. That being said, I since he destroyed the Crystal God with the Pro Rhino, or I think it was it with the Pro Rhino. No, the Pro Rhino popped the Star Crisis. He used something else to pop the Crystal God. Oh, never mind. So the crystal goes back to my hand, and he was asking why. The reason is because play of the Tistina. Well, play of the Tistina puts back the monster I summoned. So that being said, I use the domain effect. I dump the fall on the Tistina and I summon the Crystal God. Take note, despite him milling all his cards and getting his engine rolling, I'm still not in a losing position just yet. However, he will Soliak, and the Soliak will send the Tier Kashtira. 18 cards left in his deck, he's going to mill 2. He already got lucky once. Will he pull it off again? Yes. So, take note, this is the third Kelbek activation. Like, really unfortunate. Like, I don't know what the odds are for this happening, but yeah, this is the third Kelbek activation this turn. So yeah, like this is how ridiculous this game is actually getting. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to showcase this replay in the first place. Like I just feel so surreal that this is like happening. So he's doing his chain links. I tell him to like sequence his chains properly. He summons Winda. So I had the ability of using breath. I mean, using Fallen of the Tistina, since breath was popped by his monster. However, he did summon Winda, and I don't want to use. I don't want to use my special summon, my Tistina summon, under Winda, because this is 2700 attack, meaning I cannot run over it with any of the monsters right now, and the moment I try to activate Crystal God, he's just going to negate it with the Dragos Tapelia. That being said, I summon the Sentinel. He uses the Dragos Tapelia there already, and now I remember that I cannot use the Crystal God because he negated it with the Soliak. So he's a 73. If he wasn't a 73 and he would have been a 7,000 or less, I would have had game. The reason for that is because I do have Hound of the Tistina still in the graveyard, and I have yet to do my special summon. Meaning that I could have special summoned the Hound of the Tistina, and since he controls a face down monster, Hound makes it so everybody can attack directly. Meaning that would put him at 300 life points. The reason we do not do that play is because he still would have like being able to contest my board next turn. He had both Dragos Tapelia and Soliak online, meaning that he would have had a play for Demigod in the next turn. And that would have been my last special summon, meaning that I cannot do any more special summons after that. So I went for the BLS play. BLS pretty much makes it so he can't get rid of this card with anything that he has on the board. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to attack with the BLS, and I'm going to use his effect to gain 1500 attack because his Dragon Tapelia and his Kaleido Heart are more than 3000 because of Pararhinos effect. So I do the BLS effect. He summons that. He goes into Cross Sheep. He goes into the Tier Cache. And he activates the Tier Cache effect to make me mill 3. Because since he resolved Kelbek 3 times, he looks at the rest of my deck and he found a potential win condition. Which is really, really unfortunate. I really can't do a lot about that. So I don't remember what's left in my deck. And I was looking for the fact if I had any Tistina card. The reason for that is I still have Discordance of the Tistina engraved, meaning that if I draw into any Tistina card, I can use Discordance effect, grab the Demigod, use the Demigod to special summon itself, and then since I control a light Tistina, I can bring back both the Sentinel and the Hound from the graveyard. I quickly realized later, well, not quickly, I realized like a little bit later that I don't, I, that the last card in my deck is not a Tistina. And after realizing that, that's pretty much just going to be the end of the duel, because now my opponent is putting himself into a position where he's trying to make it so I cannot go for game by any means necessary, which again is just pretty unfortunate. Like, milling Kelbek 3 times in a row, 1 out of 30 cards and 1 out of 18, is something that doesn't really happen. Like, I pretty much, I pretty much lost to the worst case scenario possible that could have happened with a Tearlaments player. That being said, we're going to game 3. Now I go first. And he has no hand traps again, meaning that I can pretty much resolve all my plays. I open no P.U.N.K cards. I open just Tistina cards. I want you to look at this game like very, very, very carefully, because a lot of people just don't think that Tistina can do a lot on its own, and I'm kind of gonna have to prove you wrong on this. So I activate the breath, I summon the Sentinel, I special the Sentinel, I set the Fenrir with the breath to grab play out the Tistina, and now I'm just going to use Sentinel to pop and to grab Crystal God Tistina, and now I'm going to summon the XYZ Armor Torpedo. Torpedo is going to net us a draw. We draw into Ogre Dance. This is going to literally just secure the game, because if you remember the P.U.N.K combo, it's a +6. So yeah, that's just going to snowball a lot of advantage. I'm going to Zeaming, grab Foxy Tune, and you already seen everything. Like, you already seen all these plays by now. Like, if all the P.U.N.K cards resolve, like, it's pretty much game over. Like, there's just way too many interruptions. Like, we summon Shirakusai, we grab the Spider, we end up drawing the card we would have added with Spider. So we don't get the plus, we lose a +1 pretty much, but it's still like, this is still like the M board. We have the Tistina play, we have the Shirakusai play, we have the Torpedo play with the Armored XYZ, and we have Discordance of the Tistina, meaning that after we summon the Crystal God, we can use full Armor XYZ to immediately XYZ summon, and then after that, we can make it so this can banish the entire graveyard. So yeah, he sets 2, and when he sets the second card, I kind of make a hard read on it, because whenever people do this, it's like either they are going to do card destruction, or they're going to do like something else that just requires their hands, like a danger. So I'm going to commit into the 2 cards that he has on the board. I'm going to summon the Crystal God, I'm going to full Armor XYZ, and I'm going to immediately make the Tistina. So the Tistina is going to take away his Prolar Rhino and his talents, meaning that he's going to lose out on 2 cards, meaning that his dumps out of card destruction are going to be way less impactful. And adding to that, I have a XYZ Tistina on board, meaning that the Discordance of the Tistina is just going to like nuke his entire graveyard if it ends up getting to that situation. He now has activated the Tearlaments Kashtira. He has to activate Mothman, and then he's activating Tearlaments Kashtira, and then he tries to activate Lightning Storm before the Tear Cache. I pretty much tell him, hey, you kind of have to sequence your play properly. You can't just activate a card out of the chain. So he then mills. He activates Lightning Storm for the back row, and I chain Discordance of the Tistina. He's pretty much forced to kill though, because this is going to banish his entire graveyard. So that being said, he's going to Keldo back the King of the Swamps, as well as the Tear Cache. We pretty much lose the entire deck and back row, and he loses the entire graveyard. He grabs Pearl Rhino. Pearl Rhino is going to grab Sharon, and Sharon dumping Halfness is really, really strong in the tier deck. However, he has no graveyard. So like he would have to get incredibly lucky and like be on the worst case scenario again. That being said, I chain full armor XYZ because in the off chance he does mill the correct cards and he has the Sharon on board, I want to be prepared for Armored Lancer's effect, and I also want to be prepared with Tistina's effect as well as Chirakusai's effect. That being said, I equip the torpedo to Tistina, he mills 3, he activates Halfness, I activate the full armor, and that's game because he has literally no other way to fuse away the Halfness. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the duel. Really, really wild match. I think this is a really good match to kick off like AGOV format. Tistina is a really, really scary deck. I'm just here proving it to you right now. Granted, the P.U.N.K cards really do help this strategy, at least from my angle. But yeah, this is just a really, really wild game. The, you know, we saw Kelbek being milled 3 times. I think the OCG did the correct job on just banning the Ichizu cards. I feel like as long as those cards are in the game, Tearlaments is just going to be secured for tier 1 contention. Like, it is a high roller deck. Not every game is going to end up the same way, but whenever situations like game 2 happen, it just feels like almost impossible to win the game. But yeah, that being said, I hope you found this entertaining. I hope you found this informative. Yeah, more AGOV content coming soon, I guess. Keep practicing and keep dueling.